The crystal towers of Nexus Prime stretched toward three purple suns, each one casting strange shadows across the massive council chamber. Ambassador Dong-Yoon Kim adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform and checked his translation device one last time. Today would change everything for humanity. After 2 years of careful negotiations and countless messages sent across the galaxy, Earth had finally received an invitation to join the Galactic Council. "Remember, we represent all of humanity today," Dong-Yoon said to his team as they walked through the gleaming corridors. The alien architecture felt cold and unwelcoming, but he pushed those thoughts aside. This was just nerves talking. Minji Park, their xenobiologist, carried a small recording device hidden in her jacket. Her job was to document everything about the alien species they would meet. She had studied their biology and culture for months, preparing for this moment. Her hands shook slightly as she activated the device. Taiyun Li walked behind them, his military training evident in every step. As their security attach, he was supposed to protect the team, but his real job today was to observe. Earth's military leaders wanted to know everything about alien technology and tactics. His sharp eyes took in every detail of the security systems and guard positions. The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows that spiraled upward toward a dome ceiling. Dong-Yoon had seen pictures, but being here in person was overwhelming. The Vorthak looked like giant lizards covered in green scales. The Kaleri resembled floating jellyfish with glowing tentacles. The Zephyrian delegation appeared to be made of living crystal, their bodies reflecting light in beautiful patterns. "The human delegation will approach the center platform," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The translation device converted the words into perfect English, but Dong-Yoon could hear the underlying tone of authority. As they walked toward the center of the chamber, Dong-Yoon felt thousands of alien eyes watching them. Some creatures had multiple eyes, others had none that he could see. The diversity was amazing, but also intimidating. These beings had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. While humans had barely learned to leave their own planet, Chancellor Zelthun of the Vorthak rose from his position at the highest point of the chamber. His massive form cast a shadow over the human delegation. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. "We have gathered today to address the petition of the species called humans," Zelthun began. "They seek membership in our ancient council, claiming they are ready to join the galactic community." Dong-Yoon stepped forward, his prepared speech ready. He had practiced it hundreds of times. "Honored members of the Galactic Council, humanity comes before you with open hearts and minds. We offer our unique perspectives, our determination to learn, and our commitment to peaceful cooperation among all species." A strange sound filled the chamber. It took Dong-Yoon a moment to realize that many of the aliens were laughing. The Kaleri's tentacles pulsed with bright colors, while the Zephyrians created musical tones that somehow conveyed amusement. "Your species is interesting, humans," Zelthun continued, "but after careful study, we have reached a unanimous decision." Dong-Yoon's heart began to race. Something was wrong. This was not how he had imagined this moment. "Humanity is denied membership in the Galactic Council," the Chancellor announced. "Furthermore, your species is hereby banned from expanding beyond your home solar system. Any human vessel found in galactic space will be destroyed without warning." The words hit Dong-Yoon like a physical blow. He struggled to understand what was happening. "I don't understand. We came here because you invited us." You thought incorrectly," interrupted Counselor Vexar of the Kaleri, her tentacles now glowing an angry red. "We invited you here to deliver our judgment, not to welcome you as equals. But why?" Minji Park stepped forward, her scientific mind demanding answers. "What have we done wrong?" Zelthun's eyes narrowed. "Your species is too primitive, too violent, and too unpredictable. You have barely mastered space travel, yet you already show signs of aggressive expansion. Your history is filled with wars, destruction, and conquest." "That's in our past," Dong-Yoon protested. "We've learned from our mistakes. We've united as A species, we want to be better. Perhaps, said Counselor Mordrith of the Titanians, a being that looked like living metal. But you are also stubborn and refuse to accept your limitations. This makes you dangerous. Tae-Yun Lee had been quietly observing the alien fleet positions visible through the chamber's transparent walls. He counted at least 50 warships surrounding their small human vessel. This had been planned from the beginning. They never intended to accept humanity's membership. Your ship will be escorted back to your solar system, Zelthun announced. You will remain there. Any attempt to venture beyond your star's influence will result in immediate destruction. This judgment is final. As alien guards approached to escort them out, Minji continued recording everything. Her device captured not just the words, but the aliens' body language, their dismissive attitudes, and their obvious contempt for humanity. The journey back to the soul's pride was silent. The alien escorts made sure the humans understood they were prisoners, not guests. Once aboard their ship, the human delegation gathered in the main conference room. They planned this from the beginning, Tae-Yun said, his anger barely controlled. The invitation was just a way to deliver their judgment in person. They wanted us to see how powerless we are. But why? Minji asked again. What are they really afraid of? Dong-Yun stared out at the alien fleet surrounding them. They're afraid of competition. They've had control of the galaxy for so long that they can't imagine sharing it with anyone new. During the long journey back to Earth, the three humans analyzed everything they had seen and heard. Minji's recordings revealed important details about alien technology and behavior. Tae-Yun had memorized the positions and capabilities of the escort fleet. Dong-Yun began writing his report to Earth's leaders when they finally reached Earth. President Unji Choi and Admiral Jisoo-han were waiting for them. The debriefing took place in a secure room deep beneath the United Earth headquarters in Geneva. So they just said no? Admiral Han asked after hearing the full report. Worse than that, Dong-Yun replied. They're treating us like children who need to be kept in their room. They think we'll just accept their decision and give up our dreams of exploring the galaxy. President Choi studied the data that Minji had collected. What do you think, Admiral? Can we challenge their blockade? Admiral Han smiled grimly. Not directly. Their technology is still more advanced than ours, but they made one mistake. What's that? They underestimated human stubbornness, the Admiral replied. They told us we can't join their galaxy through diplomacy. Fine, but they never said we couldn't build our own. President Choi nodded slowly. Begin Project Prometheus immediately. If the Galactic Council thinks they can keep humanity locked in a cage, they're about to learn how wrong they are. As the meeting ended, Dong-Yun looked up at the stars through the room's single window. The aliens thought they had crushed humanity's dreams today. Instead, they had just made humanity more determined than ever. If they couldn't join the galaxy as invited guests, they would take it as unwelcome visitors. The age of human expansion was about to begin, whether the Galactic Council liked it or not. 5 years had passed since the Galactic Council's rejection, and Earth looked very different. Hidden beneath the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Yunwoo Nam worked in a laboratory that officially did not exist. The facility was buried so deep that even the most advanced alien sensors could not detect it. Here, he led a team of scientists who studied every piece of alien technology they could find. The quantum signature is almost stable, Hyunwoo said to his assistant as they watched strange energy patterns dance across their screens. The metal fragment on the table was smaller than a coin, but it contained technology that was thousands of years ahead of anything humans had built before. It came from a Vorthak scout ship that had crashed on Mars 3 years ago. The Council thought they had cleaned up all the debris, but they were wrong. Human salvage teams had secretly recovered pieces from dozens of alien crashes over the decades. Each fragment taught them something new about how advanced civilizations built their tools and weapons. Meanwhile, in a shipyard hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid near Jupiter, Captain Soo-Young-Yoon stood on the bridge of humanity's first truly invisible ship. The vessel looked like empty space even when viewed directly. The hull was covered in metamaterials that bent light around the ship, making it completely invisible to both eyes and sensors. "All systems ready, Captain," reported her engineer. "The quantum tunnel drive is online and waiting for your command." Su Yang smiled. The Council thought they had trapped humanity in their solar system, but human engineers had found a way to travel that the aliens had never imagined. Instead of flying through normal space where Council sensors could detect them, the tunnel drive allowed ships to slip through subspace itself. On the other side of the solar system, Lieutenant Jingwu Kang led a small team of scouts through an abandoned space station that drifted in the darkness beyond. Pluto, the station was ancient, built by a species that had died out long before the Council was formed. But it was not empty. "Contact ahead," whispered Specialist Myra Cho through the team's communication system. "Two beings, non-human, but they don't match any Council species in our database." Jingwu raised his hand to signal for caution. Through the dim corridors of the station, they could see two strange figures. One looked like a giant insect with multiple arms and glowing eyes. The other seemed to be made of pure energy, shifting between different colors as it moved. "This is Lieutenant Kang of the Earth Defense Force," he said over his suit's external speakers. "Are you hostile?" The insect creature turned toward them and made a series of clicking sounds, the energy being pulsed with blue light. Neither seemed threatening, but both appeared surprised to see humans so far from Earth. After several minutes of careful communication using basic mathematics and simple pictures, they learned something amazing. These beings called themselves Chitheri and Luminals. They had also been rejected by the Galactic Council, but their rejection had happened hundreds of years ago. Since then, they had been living in the empty spaces between Council worlds, forgotten and ignored. "Your species is new to this," the Chitheri's translator device finally said in broken English. "The Council fears all who think differently. They only want species who will follow their rules without question." The luminal added its own words, in patterns of colored light that the translation system slowly converted to speech. "We have watched your world. Your people have something the Council has lost. You have hope." Back on Earth, engineer Hyung Song was having the most important breakthrough of her career. She had been working on the quantum tunnel drive for 3 years, trying to solve the problem of detection. Council sensors could find normal spaceships easily, but she had discovered that subspace was like a hidden highway that the aliens had never learned to monitor. "The test is ready," she announced to the small crowd of officials who had gathered in the underground testing facility. "If this works, we can send a probe to the nearest star system without the Council knowing about it." The probe was small, no bigger than a basketball, but it contained some of humanity's most advanced technology. As Hyung activated the tunnel drive, the probe seemed to fold in on itself and disappear. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, data began flowing back from Alpha Centauri. "We did it," breathed Admiral Jasuhan, who had been watching from the observation deck. "We can travel faster than they can detect us." President Eunji Choi nodded with satisfaction. "Begin Phase 2 immediately. I want scout ships in a dozen systems within the month." The success of the tunnel drive led to the creation of an organization that the Council would never have expected. Commander Wan Ho-young had once been a smuggler, running illegal goods between Earth's colonies and the outer system. Now he led something called the Void Runners, a network of human ships that specialized in traveling through places where they were not supposed to be. "The trick is not to avoid their patrols," Wanho explained to a group of new pilots in a briefing room aboard his flagship. "The trick is to go where they never think to look." His ship, the Shadow Walker, was one of 50 vessels that now operated in the dark spaces between star systems. They mapped abandoned worlds, found ancient ruins, and established hidden supply bases on rogue planets that drifted through space without any sun to warm them. On one such world, a frozen rock called Haven by the human crews, Lieutenant Sora Kim supervised the construction of humanity's first secret base outside the solar system. The base was built underground, protected from the cold and hidden from any sensors that might pass by. "The fusion reactor is online," she reported to Earth through a quantum communication link that even the Council could not intercept. "Haven Base is ready to support operations in this sector." But the most important discovery came when Jinwu's team met with a larger group of Chitheri refugees on an ancient space station. The insect beings had once been a proud spacefaring civilization, but the Council had declared them too aggressive and dangerous to remain free. Their worlds had been taken away, and their people had been scattered across the galaxy. "We tried to resist," explained their leader, a massive Chitheri called 9 Clicks. "But the Council's technology was too strong. We could not fight their entire fleet. What if you didn't have to fight alone?" Jinwu asked. 9 Clicks' antennae twitched with interest. "Your species would help us? Even though it would make the Council your enemy?" "The Council is already our enemy," Jinwu replied. "But together we might be able to change that." Word of these new alliances reached Earth through the quantum communication network that now connected dozens of hidden human bases. Dr. Hyunwoo Nam found that studying Chithuri biotechnology gave him new insights into alien engineering. Captain Suyang Yun learned that luminal energy manipulation could make human ships even more advanced. As the 5th anniversary of the Council's rejection approached, humanity was no longer the same species that had begged for acceptance. They had become something the Council had never encountered before, a civilization that grew stronger when challenged, and more united when threatened. President Choi stood in the war room beneath Geneva, looking at a holographic map that showed human positions throughout a dozen star systems. Red dots marked Council patrol routes. Blue dots showed hidden human bases. Green dots indicated potential alien allies. "They wanted to keep us trapped in our cage," she said to Admiral Han. "Instead, they taught us how to pick locks." The Admiral smiled. "What are your orders, Madam President?" "Begin Operation Prometheus," she replied. "It's time to show the Council what happens when you underestimate humanity." Admiral Seokjin Ko stood on the bridge of the battleship New Seoul, watching 3 target locations on the tactical display. After 5 years of hiding and preparing, humanity was finally ready to make their first real move against the Galactic Council. Operation Prometheus would either prove that humans could challenge the aliens, or it would bring the full weight of the Council's military down on Earth. "All fleet units report ready," announced his communications officer. Around him, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. These men and women had trained for this moment, but none of them had ever fought against alien technology before. The 3 targets were Council monitoring stations that watched the approaches to human space. Each station was heavily defended and equipped with sensors that could detect any ship trying to leave the solar system. For 5 years, these stations had been the bars of humanity's cage. Today, those bars would be broken. "Begin the operation," Seokjin ordered. 20 light-years away, Captain Suyang Yun commanded a small fleet of stealth ships as they approached the first monitoring station. The station looked like a massive crystal flower floating in space, its petals covered with sensor arrays and weapon systems. 40 Vorthek and Kaleri crew members lived and worked inside, never imagining that invisible human ships were moving closer with every passing minute. "Target the primary sensor array," Suyang whispered into her headset. Even though the aliens could not hear her, old habits of stealth operations made her speak quietly. "Fire on my command." The human ships opened fire with weapons that the Council had never seen before. Instead of energy beams or explosive missiles, they used gravity itself as a weapon. The alien station's shields were designed to stop conventional attacks, but they could not protect against weapons that bent space and time. The crystal petals of the monitoring station began to crack and crumble as gravitational forces tore them apart. Emergency alarms sounded throughout the facility as the alien crew realized they were under attack. But their distress signals could not reach the Council fleet. The human attack had targeted the communication systems first at the second monitoring station. Colonel Neyeon led a different kind of assault. Her ships did not destroy the station. Instead, they surrounded it and deployed boarding parties. Human soldiers in advanced armor used quantum tunnel technology to appear directly inside the alien facility. "Remember, we need prisoners and data," Neon told her troops as they moved through the station's corridors. These aliens have information we need to understand Council military operations. The station's defenders were not prepared for enemies who could walk through walls and appear behind their defensive positions. The Vorthek guards were skilled warriors, but they had never fought against opponents who could bend the rules of physics. Within an hour, the station was under human control. The most important target was the third station, which contained a Vorthek dreadnought, one of the Council's most powerful warships. Dr. Yuzhin Bey had spent months studying the technical specifications of these vessels, looking for weaknesses that human technology could exploit. The dreadnought's main computer core is located in the center of the ship, she explained to the assault team through their communication system. If we can reach it, we can download their entire military database. Commander Taeyong Lee, who had been part of the original diplomatic mission 5 years earlier, led the boarding party that would capture the dreadnought. He had studied alien psychology and knew that the Vorthek respected strength above all else. If humans could defeat their most powerful ship in direct combat, it would send a message throughout the galaxy. Remember, this is not just about winning a battle, he told his soldiers as their transport ship approached the dreadnought. This is about proving that humanity deserves respect. The battle for the dreadnought was fierce. Vorthek warriors stood nearly 8 feet tall and were covered in natural armor that could stop most weapons. But human soldiers had advantages that the aliens did not expect. Their armor was powered by miniature fusion reactors that gave them superhuman strength. Their weapons could fire different types of ammunition depending on what the situation required. Most importantly, humans fought as a team in ways that surprised their enemies. While Vorthek warriors preferred individual combat, human soldiers coordinated their attacks with perfect timing. When one soldier was in trouble, others immediately moved to help. When they found a weakness in the alien defenses, they exploited it together. The fighting moved through the dreadnought's corridors level by level. Taeyong led from the front, his tactical knowledge helping his team outmaneuver the alien defenders. After 6 hours of combat, they reached the central computer core. Dr. Yuzhin Bey connected her data extraction equipment to the alien systems. The Vorthek had tried to erase their files, but human technology was designed to recover even deleted information. Soon, terabytes of Council military data began flowing into human computers. We have their fleet positions, patrol schedules, and weapon specifications, she reported with excitement. But there's something else here. The Council only controls about 40% of the galaxy. There are huge areas of space that they've never explored. While the assault teams completed their missions, Admiral Seokjin Ko prepared for the Council's response. He knew that the aliens would send a punishment fleet to Earth as soon as they learned about the attacks. Intelligence reports suggested that this fleet was already on its way. The Council's response came exactly as predicted. A massive armada of 200 warships emerged from quantum space at the edge of the solar system. The fleet was led by War Commander HFY of the Vorthek, who had been given orders to destroy Earth's military capability and capture the planet's leaders for trial. Primitive humans, HFY broadcast on all frequencies. You have committed acts of war against the Galactic Council. Surrender immediately or your world will be reduced to ash. Fleet Admiral Minho Seo responded from his command center on Luna. This is Admiral Seo of the Earth Defense Force. You are not welcome in this system. Leave now or face the consequences. The Vorthek commander laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You cannot threaten us, little humans. We have 200 ships. How many do you have? Enough, Minho replied calmly. What happened next shocked the Council fleet. The space around Earth suddenly filled with human warships that seemed to appear from nowhere. Orbital weapons platforms that had been completely invisible began targeting the alien vessels. The entire solar system had been turned into a fortress during the 5 years since the Council's rejection. The Battle of Earth lasted 18 hours. The Council fleet had superior numbers and technology, but the human defenders had advantages that the aliens could not match. They knew every asteroid, every orbit, and every hiding place in their home system. They had prepared for this battle for years, human ships used hit-and-run tactics, striking from unexpected directions and then disappearing into the maze of defensive positions around Earth. Council ships found themselves fighting enemies who appeared and vanished like ghosts. Every time they thought they had won a victory, more human vessels emerged from hidden bases. The battle turned when Captain Su Yangyun's stealth fleet, returning from their successful attack on the monitoring stations, struck the Council fleet from behind. The aliens had not expected to be attacked from outside the solar system while they were busy fighting the defenders inside it. Council fleet, this is Admiral SCO, Minho broadcast as the alien formation began to break apart. You came here to punish us for daring to fight back. Instead, you have learned that humanity will not be intimidated. War Commander Jexivil's flagship was heavily damaged, its weapon systems offline. Around him, half of his fleet was either destroyed or retreating. The primitive humans had somehow defeated the most powerful military force in the galaxy. This is impossible, he growled into his communicator. How did they become so strong? Admiral SCO's response was broadcast across the galaxy through quantum communication networks that reached every civilized world. We became strong because you taught us we had to be. You rejected us, threatened us, and tried to keep us in a cage, but humans don't stay in cages. We break free, and we help others do the same. The surviving Council ships retreated, carrying news of their defeat back to Nexus Prime. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council had lost a major battle. The species they had dismissed as too primitive had proven that technology was not everything. Courage, determination, and the willingness to fight for freedom could overcome even the greatest odds. In the aftermath of the battle, President Yoon Choi addressed the people of Earth. Today we proved that humanity will never bow to tyranny. But this is only the beginning. There are other species in the galaxy who need our help, and we will not abandon them. The age of human expansion had truly begun. While the Galactic Council focused their attention on containing humanity near Earth, explorer Captain Ariam Lim stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Horizon as it traveled through uncharted space far beyond the galactic rim. Behind her, 49 other massive vessels carried everything needed to establish human civilization on distant worlds that no Council species had ever seen. Long-range sensors are detecting a promising system ahead, reported her navigation officer. 3 planets in the habitable zone and no signs of Council presence anywhere in this sector. Ariam smiled as she looked at the star charts. The intelligence gathered from the captured Vorthok dreadnought had revealed something amazing. The Galactic Council's territory was much smaller than they claimed. Vast regions of space remained unexplored and unclaimed, especially beyond the galaxy's outer rim where most species considered the environment too harsh for colonization. Begin detailed scans of all 3 worlds, she ordered, and signal the other colony fleets. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can do when nobody is watching. The Great Expansion had begun 6 months after the Battle of Earth. President Yoon Choi and the Earth Defense Council had made a simple decision. If the Council wanted to keep humanity trapped in one small area, then humans would just go somewhere the Council never looked. Using quantum tunnel drives, hundreds of colony ships had quietly slipped away from Earth and scattered across unexplored space, on the planet that would become New Bizan. Chief Engineer Gunwoo Roo supervised the construction of humanity's first major colony beyond the rim. The world was harsh, its gravity was stronger than Earth's, the air was thin and violent storms swept across the surface regularly. According to Council standards, it was completely uninhabitable. The atmospheric processors are working faster than expected, Gunwoo reported to the colonial governor during their daily briefing. We should have breathable air across the entire settlement zone within 8 months. Governor Minji Park, the former xenobiologist who had witnessed humanity's rejection 5 years earlier, nodded with satisfaction. How are the agricultural zones progressing? See for yourself, Gunwoo said, leading her to an observation deck that overlooked the colony's food production areas. Spread across the valley below them were vast domed structures where human crops grew in alien soil. Bioformer De Yuno had spent years developing plants that could survive in conditions that would kill normal Earth vegetation. Her modified rice could grow in soil with high metal content. Her adapted wheat could survive temperature changes that would destroy regular crops. Her engineered vegetables could provide all the nutrients humans needed even when grown under a different sun. The council species could never survive here, Dayun explained as she showed them through her laboratories. They need perfect conditions, the right atmosphere, the right gravity, the right temperature. But humans are different, we adapt. Her work was being repeated on dozens of worlds across the galaxy's unexplored regions. Survival specialist Johan Kim had established a successful colony on a world where the surface temperature reached 50 degrees below zero. The colonists lived underground and used geothermal energy to power their cities, creating a thriving community in conditions that council species would consider impossible. On another world, colonists had built floating cities that drifted through the atmosphere of a gas giant. The planet had no solid surface, but its upper atmosphere contained chemicals that were valuable for manufacturing advanced technology. While council species flew past the world without a second look, humans had turned it into a major industrial center. The expansion was not just about survival, it was about creating a new kind of civilization. Trade Master Sunny Cho worked from a space station built inside a massive asteroid, coordinating commerce between the new human colonies and neutral alien merchants who were willing to trade outside council regulations. The beauty of operating beyond the rim, she explained to a group of Kaleri traders who had come seeking rare minerals, is that nobody can tell us what we're allowed to buy or sell. Her black market network grew larger every month. Council regulations restricted trade between different species, limiting what goods could be exchanged and at what prices. But human traders offered fair deals to anyone willing to do business, regardless of their species or political status. Soon, alien merchants were traveling to human space stations specifically to avoid council trade restrictions. The economic success attracted attention from unexpected sources. A delegation of Zephyrian crystal beings arrived at Sunny's trading post, their crystalline bodies pulsing with nervous energy. The Zephyrians were official council members, but they were tired of the rigid trade rules that limited their profits. We hear that humans offer better prices for quantum crystals, their leader communicated through harmonic vibrations that the translation systems converted to speech. Is this true? We pay fair market value, Sunny replied. No artificial restrictions. No political considerations. Good products get good prices. The Zephyrian delegation looked at each other with surprise. In council space, trade was controlled by complex regulations that often had nothing to do with the actual value of goods. Political favor and species ranking determined who could trade what with whom. It was inefficient and often unfair. What would you want in exchange for our crystals? They asked. Whatever you need, Sunny answered. Technology, raw materials, manufactured goods, or simply honest currency? Trade should benefit everyone involved. Within weeks, regular shipments of Zephyrian crystals were arriving at human trading posts, exchanged for advanced human technology and fair payment. The Zephyrians discovered that dealing with humans was more profitable than following council trade regulations, and word began to spread to other species. Back on Earth, Admiral Jasuhan reviewed reports from the expanding human colonies with amazement. The growth rate was beyond anything they had projected. Not only were humans successfully establishing colonies in harsh environments, but they were also attracting alien allies and trading partners. The council thought they were punishing U.S. by keeping us isolated, she said to President Choi during their weekly briefing. Instead, they gave us the freedom to build something better than what they have. The president studied the galactic map that now showed human colonies scattered across hundreds of star systems. What's our current population outside Earth? Over 2 million and growing daily, Admiral Han replied. But more importantly, we're not just surviving out there, we're thriving. Human colonies are becoming centers of trade and innovation that attract beings from across the galaxy. The expansion had also led to unexpected discoveries. Explorer teams had found ancient ruins on several worlds, left behind by civilizations that existed long before the current Galactic Council. Archaeological specialist Kyungin Lee lead teams that studied these ruins, learning about species and technologies that had been forgotten for thousands of years. These ruins show that the galaxy once had dozens of advanced civilizations, she reported from an excavation site on a world called Haven's End. But something happened to them. They either died out or disappeared, leaving only empty cities behind. The discovery of the ancient ruins raised disturbing questions about the Council's version of galactic history. According to their records, the current Council species were the first to achieve interstellar civilization. But the ruins proved that other species had reached similar levels of advancement long ago. What happened to them? Asked Dr. Hyunwoo. When Kingman's report reached Earth. That's what we're trying to find out, she replied. But the evidence suggests that they challenged the Council's predecessors and lost. As the first year of the Great Expansion ended, humanity had established over 100 colonies in unexplored space. Each colony was self-sufficient and connected to the others through quantum communication networks that the Council could not intercept or jam. More importantly, each colony served as proof that humans could succeed where other species had failed. Captain Ariam Lim stood once again on the bridge of the New Horizon. Now orbiting the thriving world of New Bizin, the planet's cities glowed with warm light in the darkness, and orbital stations surrounded the world like artificial moons. In just 1 year, humans had transformed a harsh, empty world into a center of civilization. Message coming in from Earth, her communications officer announced. Priority transmission from President Choi. Ariam activated the quantum communicator, and President Choi's image appeared on the main screen. Captain Lim, I want you to know that your work has exceeded our highest expectations. But we're about to begin the next phase of our expansion. We've made contact with several species that want to break free from Council control. Are you ready to help liberate them? Ariam looked out at the thriving human colony below and smiled. We're ready, Madam President. When do we begin? Liberation Fleet Commander Jungkook Park watched through his ship's view screen as the Shithuri prison world of Kethmoran grew larger ahead of them. The planet looked like a gray ball of concrete and metal, its surface covered with massive detention facilities where millions of insect beings lived in terrible conditions. For 300 years, the Galactic Council had kept the Chithuri here as punishment for refusing to follow Council laws. Stealth systems are holding, reported his tactical officer. The Council garrison has no idea we're here. Jungkook nodded as he studied the intelligence reports. The prison world was defended by only a small Council force. They had never expected anyone to attempt a rescue operation this far from human space. That was about to change. Signal the Chithuri resistance, he ordered. Tell 9 clicks that the liberation begins in 1 hour. Deep beneath the surface of Kethmoran, the Chithuri leader called 9 clicks received the coded message through a communication device that human agents had smuggled to him months earlier. His compound eyes glowed with excitement as he spread. The word to resistance cells throughout the prison facilities. The Chithuri had been planning this moment for decades, but they had never had the weapons or allies needed to challenge their guards. Now, with human stealth technology and advanced weapons, they finally had a chance to win their freedom. Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, Special Operations Leader Xing Li crept through the corridors of a Council intelligence facility. On the world of Nexus 7, her mission was different but equally important. She needed to gather information about other oppressed species and identify potential allies for humanity's growing rebellion. Her stealth suit made her completely invisible to alien sensors, and her advanced tools could crack any Council security system. As she downloaded classified files from the facility's main computer, she discovered something that made her blood run cold. The files contained records of dozens of species that had been destroyed or enslaved by the Council over the past 1,000 years. Each species had committed the same crime. They had refused to accept Council authority and had tried to remain independent. The Council's response had always been the same: complete subjugation or total extinction. The Kalari genocide. of 2847, she read from one file. The titanium suppression of 2756, the Vorthok conquest of the spiral arm sectors. Each entry represented millions of beings who had died simply because they wanted to be free, back at Kethmoran. The liberation began exactly on schedule, human. Ships emerged from stealth and attacked the Council garrison while Chthari prisoners rose up inside the detention facilities. The battle was swift and decisive. The guards had never faced coordinated resistance from both inside and outside. The prison. Commander Jungkook personally led the assault team that captured the prison's central command center. The Council administrators surrendered immediately when they realized they were outnumbered and outgunned. Within 6 hours, every Chthari on the planet was free. "This is Commander Park to all liberated Chthari," he broadcast across the planet. "You are no longer prisoners. You are free beings who can choose your own destiny. Humanity offers you alliance and friendship, but the choice is yours alone." 9 clicks stood before the massive crowd of newly freed Chthari in the planet's main assembly area. His people had suffered for centuries, but they had never lost hope. Now that hope was finally rewarded. "The humans have given us back our freedom," he clicked in the complex language of his species. "But freedom means responsibility. We must decide. Do we hide and hope the Council forgets about us? Or do we help free others who suffer as we have suffered?" The response was unanimous. A sound like thunder filled the assembly area as millions of Chthari clicked their approval. They would join humanity's rebellion and help liberate other oppressed species. The liberation of Kethmoran was just the beginning. Strategic Admiral Namjoon Kim coordinated similar operations across a dozen worlds where various species were being held as prisoners or slaves. Each operation was carefully planned to minimize casualties while maximizing the psychological impact on Council forces. "The key is not to defeat their armies," he explained to his staff officers during a planning session. "The key is to prove that the Council can be beaten. Once their subject species realize that resistance is possible, the Council's entire system will start to collapse." His strategy was working. News of successful liberation operations spread throughout the galaxy faster than the Council could suppress it. Species that had accepted Council rule for centuries began to question whether they really needed to obey their alien overlords. On the luminal homeworld of Crystaltane, the energy beings who had been humanity's first allies were preparing for their own liberation. Unlike the Chthari, the Luminals had never been imprisoned. Instead, they had been forced to provide energy for Council technology while receiving almost nothing in return. The Luminal called Brightsong communicated with Admiral Namjoon through patterns of colored light that human translation systems converted to words. "Our people are ready to cut off the energy supply to Council facilities in this sector. But we need to know that you can protect us when they send their punishment fleets." "You have our word," Namjoon replied. "Humanity does not abandon its allies." The coordinated rebellion reached its peak when Chief Diplomat Rose Park announced the formation of the Free Systems Alliance from a hidden base in the Outer Rim. The broadcast was sent to every civilized world in the galaxy, using quantum communication technology that the Council could not block. Too long have the people of this galaxy lived under the boot of an organization that claims to represent them while denying them basic freedoms, she said, her words being translated into hundreds of alien languages simultaneously. The Galactic Council rules through fear and oppression, but fear only works when people believe they have no choice. Her speech continued with an offer that shocked the galaxy. The Free Systems Alliance welcomes any species that chooses freedom over servitude. We do not require you to worship human ideals or follow human customs. We only ask that you respect the right of all beings to determine their own destiny. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within days, 17 different species had declared their independence from Council rule and requested membership in the Free Systems Alliance. The Council's carefully controlled empire was beginning to crumble. Council military forces tried to respond to the growing rebellion, but they faced a problem they had never encountered before. The rebels were not fighting like traditional enemies. Instead of large fleets meeting in open battle, Human-led forces used hit-and-run tactics that struck everywhere and nowhere. War Commander Jexival, who had led the failed attack on Earth, found himself fighting ghosts. How do we defeat an enemy that appears from empty space, strikes our facilities, and vanishes before we can respond? He demanded of his staff. His intelligence officer could only shake his massive head. The humans have taught their allies to fight like humans, sir. They do not follow the traditional rules of warfare. The Council's confusion grew worse when they discovered that many of their own species were secretly supporting the rebellion. The Zephyrian crystal beings who had been trading with humans began sabotaging Council facilities. Even some Vorthak warriors joined the rebellion after learning about the genocide files that Cheung Li had stolen. The breaking point came when the Luminals carried out their threat to cut power to Council facilities across 3 star systems. Suddenly, hundreds of Council bases, research stations, and administrative centers went dark. The beings who had provided energy for Council technology for centuries were now using that same power as a weapon against their former masters. President Yunji Choi received daily reports about the growing rebellion from her command center on Earth. The liberation wars had grown far beyond what anyone had expected. What started as a few rescue operations had become a galaxy-wide revolution. Status report, Admiral, she said to Namjoon during their morning briefing. 37 species have now joined the Alliance, he replied. Council forces are retreating from the Outer Rim sectors, and their control over the core worlds is weakening. But we need to be careful. Desperate enemies often make dangerous choices. As if summoned by his words, an urgent communication arrived from human intelligence networks. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session on Nexus Prime, according to intercepted transmissions. They were planning something called Final Protocol, a last desperate attempt to crush the rebellion before it could grow any stronger. What do you think Final Protocol means? President Choi asked. Admiral Nevjun's expression was grim. I think it means they're planning to attack Earth with everything they have left. They know that if they can destroy humanity, the Alliance will collapse. President Choi stood and looked out at the stars through her office window. 2 years ago, humanity had been a species trapped in their own solar system. Now they led a galactic alliance that was challenging the most powerful empire in known space. Then we had better be ready for them, she said quietly. Because this time, the fate of the entire galaxy depends on whether humanity can win. Supreme Chancellor Vorthok stood in the Great Council Chamber on Nexus Prime, his massive form casting shadows across the ancient crystal floors. Around him, representatives from the remaining loyal species waited in tense silence. The rebellion had grown beyond their worst fears, and desperate times called for desperate measures. The Final Protocol is authorized, he announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. Every loyal ship, every loyal soldier, every loyal world will contribute to this final assault. We will destroy the human homeworld and crush this rebellion. Once and for all, War Commander Jexival bowed deeply. It will be done, Supreme Chancellor. The largest fleet in galactic history is already assembling. 5,000 ships from every corner of Council space. The armada that gathered in the dead space between galaxies was truly massive. Vorthak dreadnoughts the size of cities floated alongside Kaleri bioships that pulsed with organic weapons. Zephyrian crystal vessels reflected starlight like floating diamonds, while titanium metal ships bristled with advanced weaponry. Even the peaceful Etherian energy beings had contributed their living light ships to the cause. This is our last chance, Vorthak told his assembled fleet commanders through quantum communication. If we fail here, the council that has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years will cease to exist. Failure is not acceptable. On Earth, Defense Coordinator Jenny Kim watched the approaching armada through long-range sensors with a mixture of fear and determination. The numbers were overwhelming, 5,000 enemy ships against humanity's 800 vessels and their scattered alien allies. By any reasonable calculation, Earth was doomed. Status of all defense systems? She asked her staff in the underground. Command Center. Orbital platforms are fully operational, reported her tactical officer. All stealth minefields are in position. The lunar defense grid is online, and our allied fleets are moving into position. Admiral Hoseok Lee commanded the main human fleet from his flagship, the Earth's Shield. Around him, ships from a dozen liberated species took their positions in the complex defensive formation that had been planned for months. Shithari vessels used their natural camouflage abilities to hide among asteroids. Luminal energy ships prepared to overload enemy shields with pure power. Even small groups of Rebel Council species had joined the defense. Remember, Hoseok broadcast to all ships, we are not just defending Earth today. We are defending the idea that every species has the right to be free. The battle began when the Council fleet emerged from quantum space at the edge of the solar system. Their formation was perfect, a massive wall of ships advancing slowly toward Earth with overwhelming firepower. It looked unstoppable. All ships, commence final protocol assault, ordered Vorthak from his command ship. Target the human military installations first, then the population centers. But as the Council fleet moved deeper into the solar system, they began to encounter surprises. Space mines appeared from nowhere, using human stealth technology to remain invisible until the last moment. Entire Council squadrons were destroyed before they knew they were under attack. Admiral Hoseok smiled grimly as he watched the enemy formation begin to break apart. Phase 2, he ordered. All allied vessels begin harassment attacks. Chithari ships emerged from hiding spots among the asteroids, striking at Council supply vessels before vanishing again. Luminal energy beings materialized inside enemy formations, overloading shield generators and weapon systems before disappearing into subspace. The massive Council fleet found itself under attack from enemies that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Report, demanded Vorthak as explosions lit up the space around his command ship. We are taking heavy casualties, Supreme Chancellor, replied his tactical officer. The humans have turned their entire solar system into a weapons platform. Every asteroid could be hiding enemies. Every empty space could contain mines. The Council had expected to fight a traditional space battle with large fleets meeting in open combat. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a maze of defensive positions where their numerical superiority meant nothing. Human defenders used the solar system's natural features against them, forcing the massive alien fleet to split into smaller groups that could be defeated one by one. The turning point came when Captain Taeyeon Choi received orders for the most dangerous mission of the war. Her ship, the Quantum Arrow, was equipped with humanity's newest and most experimental technology, quantum displacement. Drives that allowed a vessel to exist in multiple locations at the same time. Your target is Nexus Prime itself, Admiral, Hoseok told her through encrypted communication. If we can strike at the Council's homeworld while their fleet is attacking Earth, we can force them to retreat. Taeyeon looked at her crew, all volunteers who knew they might not return from this mission. Understood, sir. We'll make them regret starting this war. The Quantum Arrow slipped away from the main battle using stealth technology that made it completely invisible. While the Council fleet focused their attention on Earth's defenses, Taeyeon's ship used quantum tunnel drives to travel instantly to Nexus Prime. The heart of Council power, Nexus Prime had not been attacked in over 1,000 years. Its defenses were ancient and designed to stop conventional fleets. Not a single ship that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Quantum Arrow appeared in orbit around the planet like a ghost, striking at orbital defense platforms before they could respond. This is Captain Choi to Nexus Prime Defense Command, she broadcast on all frequencies. Your fleet is attacking our homeworld while your own world lies defenseless. Perhaps it is time to reconsider your priorities. The psychological impact was enormous. Throughout the galaxy, species that remained loyal to the Council heard that their capital world was under attack. Many began to question whether their leaders could really protect them if they could not even protect themselves. On his command ship above Earth, Vorthak received the news with growing panic. Impossible. How did a single human ship reach Nexus Prime? Should we recall the fleet to defend the homeworld? Asked War Commander Jexival. Before Vorthik could answer, another voice cut through their communication system. President Hyman. Park was broadcasting from Earth to every ship in both fleets, her words being translated into hundreds of alien languages. Warriors of the Galactic Council, she began, look around you. You are fighting and dying for leaders who have lied to you for centuries. They told you that humanity was too primitive and dangerous to join your civilization. But who is the real danger here? Her words were accompanied by data broadcasts showing the genocide files that human agents had stolen from Council archives. Every ship in the attacking fleet received evidence of the Council's crimes against dozens of innocent species. We did not start this war, President Park continued. We simply refuse to accept that any species has the right to enslave another. Today, you have a choice. You can continue fighting for a system built on fear and oppression, or you can join U.S. in building something better. The response shocked everyone. Across the Council fleet, individual ships began to break formation. Zephyrian crystal vessels were the first to stop firing, their crews announcing that they would no longer fight for the Council. Soon, entire squadrons of rebel ships were changing sides. All vessels maintain formation, Vorthik roared. Anyone who retreats will be destroyed as a traitor. But his threats were empty. The Council fleet was falling apart as more and more ships either retreated or joined the human defenders. Species that had served the Council for centuries were finally seeing the truth about their leaders. The end came when the Shithari fleet, led by Nineclicks himself, arrived from the Outer Rim with reinforcements from the liberated worlds. The massive insect vessels emerged from quantum space behind the remaining Council forces, trapping them between the human defenses and their own former victims. Supreme Chancellor, announced Nineclicks through the communication system, you once told my people that we were too violent to be free. Today we use that violence to free others from their tyranny. Vorthik looked around his command bridge. As systems failed and his fleet disintegrated around him, the final protocol had become the Council's final defeat. 10,000 years of rule were ending not with a glorious victory, but with a humiliating collapse. All remaining Council vessels, broadcast Admiral Hoseak, this is your final warning. Surrender now or be destroyed. The age of the Galactic Council is over. As the last loyal Council ships either surrendered or fled into deep space, Captain Tyan Choi's voice reached Earth from Nexus Prime. Mission accomplished. The Council capital is secure, and their government has surrendered. The war is over. President Park stood in the war room beneath Geneva, looking at tactical displays that showed the complete collapse of the enemy fleet. Around her, military officers and civilian leaders watched in amazement as the most powerful empire in galactic history simply ceased to exist. Send the message to all worlds, she ordered. The Galactic Council is dissolved. In 6 months, representatives from every free species will gather on New Sol to establish a new government based on equality and justice for all. The Battle of Earth was over. Humanity had not just survived the Council's last desperate attack, they had transformed it into the Fee. Chancellor Irene Bay walked through the gleaming halls of the new Galactic Assembly building on New Sol, humanity's capital world in the Outer Rim. 6 months had passed since the fall of the Galactic Council, and today would mark the beginning of a new era for every species in the galaxy. Unlike the cold crystal towers of the old Council chambers, this building was designed to welcome all forms of life, with different atmospheric zones and gravity levels to accommodate every possible visitor. The delegates are arriving faster than we expected, reported her aide as they reviewed the schedule for the opening session. We now have representatives from over 200 species, including many that the old Council never even knew existed. Irene smiled as she looked out the window at the landing platforms where ships from across the galaxy were arriving hourly. Chithari vessels sat next to luminal energy craft. Former Council species mixed freely with beings that had been hiding in the dark spaces between stars for centuries. It was exactly what humanity had dreamed of when they first sought membership in a galactic community. In the Assembly's main hall, Science Director Yoongi Min was preparing to announce the galaxy-wide research initiative, the most ambitious scientific project in history. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in a chamber designed like a vast amphitheater, where every being could see and be seen regardless of their size or physical form. For too long, knowledge has been hoarded by the few and denied to the many. He began, his words being translated into countless alien languages simultaneously. Today we change that forever. The research initiative will share all scientific discoveries freely among every member species. The response was immediate and enthusiastic. In the old council system, advanced technology was strictly controlled. Only approved species could access certain types of knowledge, and even then only after paying enormous fees. The new system would make all research available to everyone. Dr. Jayan Kong, who had spent years studying alien technology in secret, now worked openly with scientists from dozens of species. In his laboratory aboard the orbital research station Unity, he collaborated with a Zephyrian crystal engineer and a Shethari biotechnician to develop new medical treatments that combine the best ideas from each civilization. The Zephyrian harmonic healing technique works perfectly with Shethari biological manipulation, he explained to a visiting delegation of former council species. When we combine them with human adaptability research, we can cure diseases that were thought impossible to treat. Their work was just one example of what happened when different species shared knowledge instead of competing for dominance. In the months since the new government was established, scientific progress had accelerated beyond anyone's expectations. Problems that had puzzled researchers for decades were being solved in weeks when multiple species worked together. Trade Federation. Chief Lisa Manoban operated from a massive space station at the intersection of several major trade routes. The station bustled with activity as merchants from every corner of the galaxy came to do business under the new economic system. Unlike the old council's restrictive trade laws, the Federation operated on simple principles: fair prices, honest dealing, and equal opportunity for all. A Kaleri bioship captain wants to trade healing organisms for titanium metal alloys, her assistant reported during the morning briefing. A group of Etherean energy beings is offering power crystals in exchange for human agricultural technology. And we have 17 different species bidding on a shipment of rare minerals from the Outer Rim. Lisa nodded with satisfaction. The old council system had created artificial scarcity by restricting who could trade what with whom. The new system created abundance by allowing natural market forces to operate freely. Species that had been considered primitive by the council often had valuable resources or knowledge that more advanced civilizations needed. In a shipyard orbiting New Seoul, Admiral Jasu Kim watched as construction crews from a dozen different species worked together to build humanity's newest project, the exploration ship New Horizon. The vessel was designed not for war but for discovery. Its mission would be to explore beyond the galaxy itself, seeking new worlds and new civilizations in the vast space between galaxies. The quantum tunnel drives are based on human technology, explained Chief Engineer Wanbin Park as he showed the Admiral through the ship's engine room. But the navigation systems use luminal energy manipulation, and the life support systems incorporate Chethari biological engineering. It's truly a ship built by the entire galaxy. The New Horizon represented everything the new galactic civilization stood for: cooperation instead of competition, exploration instead of conquest, and hope instead of fear. Its crew would include members from every major species working together to push the boundaries of known space. President Sana Park, who had been elected as the first leader of the new Galactic Federation, addressed the assembled delegates on the anniversary of the Council's fall. The ceremony took place not in a government building, but in a vast park where beings from hundreds of worlds could gather under the open sky of New Seoul. 1 year ago, we were told that we were not worthy to join the galactic community, she said, her words carried by translation devices to every being present. Today, we have built a better community than the one that rejected us. We have proven that diversity is strength, that cooperation is more powerful than domination, and that freedom is the birthright of every thinking being. The crowd that cheered Her words included species that had been enemies for thousands of years under the old council system. Vorthok warriors stood beside Chithari workers. Kaleri scholars debated with luminal philosophers. Even former council leaders, who had joined the new government, applauded the changes that had transformed their galaxy. The transformation was not just political, it was cultural and social as well. On worlds throughout the galaxy, art and music flourished as different species shared their creative traditions. The rigid hierarchy of the old council, which ranked species based on their technology and military power, had been replaced by a celebration of diversity where every culture had something valuable to contribute. Captain Yuna Zheng stood on the bridge of the New Horizon as the massive ship prepared for its maiden voyage. Through the viewscreen, she could see the galaxy spread out before them, millions of stars that now represented not conquered territories, but free worlds united in common purpose. "All systems ready, Captain," reported her first officer, a Chithari engineer whose clicking speech was translated instantly by the ship's advanced communication systems. "The quantum tunnel drive is charged and ready for intergalactic travel." "Course laid in for the Andromeda Galaxy," added her navigation officer, a luminal being whose energy form pulsed with excitement. "Estimated travel time, 6 months," Yuna took a deep breath as she looked out at the stars. Humanity had come so far from the species that had been rejected by the Galactic Council 7 years ago. They had not just survived that rejection, they had used it to build something better than what they had been denied. "Begin the jump," she ordered. The New Horizon disappeared from normal space in a flash of quantum energy, carrying its diverse crew toward distant galaxies where new adventures and new friendships waited to be discovered. Behind them, the galaxy they left was more peaceful and prosperous than it had ever been under Council rule. In the years that followed, the Galactic Federation would grow to include over 1,000 species. Wars between member worlds became almost unknown as disputes were settled through negotiation and compromise. Trade flourished as artificial barriers were removed. Science advanced at an unprecedented rate as knowledge was shared freely among all species. The old Galactic Council had ruled through fear, maintaining power by keeping different species separate and suspicious of each other. The new Federation governed through hope, drawing strength from the bonds that formed when diverse beings worked together toward common goals. Former Chancellor Vorthak, now living quietly on a farming world in the Outer Rim, often thought about the irony of how the galaxy had changed. The species he had dismissed as too primitive to join galactic civilization had created a civilization more advanced than anything the Council had ever achieved. The final entry in the official history of the Galactic Federation was written by historian Dr. Minho Song 10 years after the Council's fall. His words became famous throughout the galaxy. They said we were not invited to their galaxy. They were right, we built a better one. We learned that true strength comes not from ruling over others, but from helping others become strong. We discovered that the greatest civilizations are not built by a single species imposing their will on everyone else, but by many species choosing to work together. Most importantly, we proved that when any being is denied freedom, all beings are diminished. The galaxy we built after the Council's fall was not just more powerful than what came before, it was more peaceful and more full of hope for the future. As the New Horizon and other exploration ships pushed the boundaries of known space, carrying the ideals of the Federation to distant galaxies, one truth had become clear to every being in the Milky Way. The universe was vast enough for everyone to find their place among the stars. As